You're in your spaces, having your props around you. Feel free to come back to sit down, lay down. I'll scooch back myself. All right, so we'll get started. Propping your tailbone if you'd like to sit with a blanket or block or maybe nothing. If you want to lay down, if this evening or when you practice, if you just feeling like you want to lay down and start your practice on your back or belly, feel free. And then from there, we'll close our eyes. We'll begin to settle into the space, noticing our body, noticing our breath, maybe even noticing the gaze at the backs of the eyelids if your eyes are completely closed. And just noticing here, whatever it might be, whatever's speaking to you first. As we arrive into this genuine space. And allow the entire practice to be maybe an act of kindness, or just as I said, a genuine space. That's what we're working with. The way in which you're breathing, how is that genuine? The way in which you're arriving into the body, right? This authenticity, this truthfulness. In the same way we appreciate others being genuine towards us, how can we be genuine towards ourselves? And having that mindset really helps set the tone for the way in which we arrive into our stretches, the way in which we arrive into rebounds, the way in which we just take up stillness. So with that in mind, and of course, welcoming any other intentions that you have had in mind, we'll first open up our space with one cleansing breath. Together, we'll breathe in through the nose. Then open the lips to exhale. Again, like that, deep breath in. And a deep breath out. This last time, hands can stay relaxed within the lap, or hands can gather into prayer. Taking a cleansing breath or joining me for the sound of Om as we breathe in. Om. Very gently bowing your chin to your chest. Take a moment here, allowing your breath and the vibrations to settle within the heart space, to reverberate off the walls of the inner body, and as we seal our intentions for practice. Whenever you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes, bring the hands away. If you're laying back down, you'll slowly come up to sit, and we'll let ourselves start in dragonfly, but we'll do something specific with the ankles. So our forward fold here, you might take a blanket or a pillow to prop your tailbone. As we open the legs within this V shape, and you might naturally come to stack your blocks or a few pillows or a few blankets, whether things are more horizontal, or more vertical. It's really just depending on how you're going to fold, whether it's just the forehead or a little bit more of the body. But instead of keeping the feet kind of just relaxed as we might normally describe it, let's open out the feet, open out the knees, and open out the hips. Okay, so we're going to hold this external rotation within the legs. Now, if I move my props just so that you can see, normally my feet would kind of just relax, however, and your body might have your feet naturally turn out. But in the case that they don't do that, or that they do, we're just going to consciously observe that, holding the openness within the feet, knees, and hips as you let your body fold. Okay, so it's going to be a slightly different stretch. And the interesting thing about this is that one leg might want to externally rotate more than the other. Okay, so it's not about forcing the hips or forcing the knees or ankles in any way. Just kind of work with your body here. That's what we'll do. Okay, so if I keep my blocks here just so that you can still see my legs and how I'll transition, my feet might just kind of turn in naturally or be neutral. And then I'm going to open the knees out. I'm going to turn my feet out and away, hips gently opening. And because this is an active hold, you might take a break and let it release and then try it again. Okay, but this is always an option. So not forcing yourself into it. You might like to experience it for a few breaths and then just let it go. Maybe you do one leg at a time. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. As we fold within this dragonfly shape and practice externally opening or externally rotating joints within the legs. Notice how that might begin to engage different fascial sensations, different tissues stretching. Our mind's able to observe. And as that is happening, how can we also check in with the body as we let ourselves gently relax into the shape? And letting ourselves arrive in this very genuine space. Not wanting your experience any other way than the way that it's happening. Staying present here as you continue to observe sensation. Allowing your front body to release gently. And letting the back body release as well. And of course, readjusting the body as often as you need. And we'll be here in Dragonfly for a few more breaths. Now, if you're still holding that external rotation in one leg or both legs, gently let it release. And then from there, we'll gently press down into the floor and begin to lift up through the head and chest. Maybe taking a moment of breath. Your hands might gently massage along the legs. And just see where the body takes you from here. Do you lay down for some counter movement? Does the body bring you forward for counter movement? Do you stay seated for your counter movement? And just letting yourself face any angle within the room, any direction on your mat or on your floor, wherever you're practicing. Letting those counter movements just be supportive. As we release through that fascial stretch, the body might want to move within that reclaimed space. And then pausing for that rebound moment wherever it is. Seated, laying, child's pose. Taking that moment to just be. Feeling the echoes of the fascia as everything is slowly contracting back. There's this ripple effect of sensation through the body as we release from the stretch. And some places might feel it more than other places, and that's okay. If you'd like to stay in your rebound a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Whenever you're ready, we'll transition. And we're going to come to lay on our back so that we can take the left side of dove. So I'll lay on this side. Now, as we do this, you might use a pillow or blanket to support the back of the head. Knees bend, feet come flat to the floor. Left knee opens out to the side. Now you have a couple options in how you want to take this shape, right? Right now, my left foot is just resting next to my right foot. But if you need a prop underneath the thigh, take it. If you need a prop underneath your back, you might find some pillow or blanket underneath your right hip, right? Since the pelvis is at a tilt. And then once you kind of set that up, if you want more of a stretch, take your left foot underneath your right thigh. Just kind of walk it through. As high to the right glute or as low to the right heel or anywhere in between. That left foot can rest. And from there, your arms relaxing on the body, off the body, up above the head. Allowing yourself to find the stretch here in dove. Not stretching too deeply, too quickly. And some of my statements are repetitive. I know. But sometimes we're just so conditioned in certain ways that I just would like us to remember. And I'm just kindly reminding all of us, including myself, that we see this, glimpse of a green light and we kind of just like take off. But before we do that, in the same way where you would pace yourself, whether it's walking a certain amount of miles or running a certain amount of miles or doing anything physically, it's the same type of principles when we apply them to our stretch. Pacing yourself because it will get deeper. The sensation will go deeper as we stay here longer. So as you pace yourself within the stretch, we have this time to soften into the body, letting go of any clenching or gripping. Checking in with the breath. The breath will help you as you soften. We'll be in dove for a few more moments here. And then whenever you're ready, as we start to lower the arms all the way down to the hips, our left hand will help unravel this left knee as we gently hug it into the chest. And then from there, you might hug both knees and gently rock side to side. Maybe you find more counter movement where the legs lengthen to the ceiling as you roll into your ankles. Maybe your feet are on the floor and your windshield wipering the knees from side to side. So whatever feels good. And then after those counter movements, holding that space for yourself in rebound. Noticing any subtle sensation. Feeling the physical effects of the stretch as they now settle into the layers of the body. The breath might have this new sense of peace. And it's funny, these rebound moments, if you like yin, if you're interested in yin, it almost goes without saying. But when you find yin challenging in a way that makes you don't want to do it, right? Rebounds are just that stamp to say, like, just let your mind chill out. And it's a skill that is required within our practice. But we get better and better at it over time. So if you need more space here in rebound, stay. If you're ready for dove on the opposite side, we'll let the knees bend, feet come flat to the floor. Take adjustments if you need, and then the right knee will open out to the side. Right knee opens out, whether the foot stays where it is or it will walk underneath the left thigh. Arms can reach up above the head, maybe not as high. Maybe the hands stay close to your rib cage. So whatever is good for you. And you feel that you're in the best place to begin your stretch. You'll close your eyes and settle into stillness. Arriving into this genuine space to observe, to soften. And we get to instill this practice of staying present, staying focused. Observing the body just as it is. And the body not proving anything that doesn't need to. The body also doesn't owe us anything. But here it is, working for us, breathing for us, stretching for us. And as we soften into the body, that helps the mind relax within its own space. Feeling this genuine relationship with itself. A few more breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, we'll gently begin to lower the arms down by the hips. Your right hand can reach for your right thigh as we gently hug the knee into the chest, lengthen through the back. If you'd like to hug in both knees, feel free to do so. Whether you wrap around the shins or you might even wrap around your chest, if that feels good for the upper body. Taking any counter movements, as many as you need, until you settle into that space to rebound. Hovering here. Feeling the reverberations of the stretch bounce off the walls within the body, the same way it occurs with a deep breath or the sound of Om, or singing or chanting in general. Just noticing any expansiveness within the breath. If you'd like to stay here a little longer in rebound, you're more than welcome to do so. Or whenever you're ready, let's gently arrive back to a seated shape. No rush to get there, and you can arrive however you'd like, taking any movements along the way. We're going to come back into dragonfly to either A, keep the legs neutral, which is what you might have done already, and you'll just do that again. Or if you were practicing that external hold, we're now going to do the internal hold. So you'll come back to your props and how you like to support yourself for dragonfly. Now allowing the legs, the feet, the knees, the hips to turn in. Right? One leg might naturally do it more than the other. That's fine. Right? And you'll still let yourself fold. Now, some people will come into the internal rotation and then fold. Sometimes you might fold and then do the internal rotation. So feel free to play around and just do what's best for your body. Same idea though, you might not hold the internal rotation the entire time, right? If the legs get fatigued, which is possible because this is physical, and even though the body is in stillness, we're engaging, that's the word I was looking for. So if you go back and forth between releasing the internal hold and then holding it again, just go at your own pace. If you have any questions, let me know. And again, as you play around with this, one leg might be neutral and the other will be doing the internal hold, and then that leg is neutral and the opposite leg will switch. And just exploring the difference within sensation here. Depending on how you're keeping your legs will also depend on how the spine will sit tall or round, where you might hinge at the hips or not. Your edge will tell you how far to go or not to go. Coming from this genuine space, not having to prove anything to the mind, not needing to conquer. Instead, we'll soften into the shape and follow those internal cues to support the body however we can. Checking in with your breath. We'll be in our dragonfly for a few more moments here. And if you're still holding that internal rotation, you might gently let it go. It could be a little shake of the feet or shake of the ankles. And then as you gently press down into the floor or into the props, we'll start walking ourselves up and out of dragonfly, taking any counter movement here. And you might find different movement with the release of dragonfly for the second time. Whether you're seated and moving through the torso and arms, maybe you're laying down again, maybe you're forward on your belly or in child's pose. Just not thinking too much about it and honoring wherever your body guides you. To then hover here in that space of rebound, whatever it looks like. Observing those subtle sensations. These rebound moments are almost like when you listen to your favorite song. And it doesn't really matter how the body is dancing or moving or tapping, because you're just connected to this higher experience that's bigger than yourself. If you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But whenever you're ready, we'll transition out of rebound. And we'll talk about either reclined figure 4 or sleeping swan, depending on where your body wants to go. And to remind you, sleeping swan looks like pigeon, but it's called sleeping swan in yin, just because of the different approach. Okay, but I'll talk about reclined figure 4 first. You might take a pillow or a blanket to support your head. You might have a block or a blanket or something lifting your right foot as you take your left ankle over the right thigh. Okay. Now you can stack as many props as you want underneath your right leg, because the higher the foot, more tilt to the pelvis, so deeper stretch. And then less of a stretch, keep your foot lower or farther from your glute. So closer to the glute and higher is more stretch, but lower and farther is less. Okay, but that's if you want to take reclined figure 4, or you'll come more into that sleeping swan pigeon type of shape with the left knee in front of you, right leg long, taking any pillows or blankets here. Now, the left shin might still be on a diagonal, or maybe it's directly underneath you, right? Maybe it's more tucked in, but maybe it's more out. So it just depends on your hip, what is best for your stretch. Again, we might, start in one variation and then transition into the other as we're pacing ourselves here. You might have a pillow or blanket underneath your left glute, but you might also have a pillow or blanket underneath your right hip, in between your right hip and your left heel. I usually like to prop myself like this in case the right hip dips, or in case your left heel digs into your right hip. It's just not comfortable, so you can use props to support. And then anything underneath the forehead, underneath your arms, however you'd like to support your upper body. And then when you're ready, we'll begin to settle here. Wherever you are, we could all be in different variations, but What's similar is our approach. Arriving patiently, not looking for any one specific thing, but just tuning in to whatever the body is sharing. The body is consistently genuine in the way in which it gives us life. So as we arrive here and settle into the stillness, how can we mindfully reciprocate that? Checking in with the breath. We'll be here for a bit more. Of course, if you ever need to release sooner, we'll always meet in rebound. But if you'd like to stay a little longer, you're welcome to. And then whenever you're ready, no rush at all, we'll begin to release from our sleeping swan or recline figure 4. And take your time. Depending on where you are, we'll all be releasing differently. But again, in that same approach where we move slowly, find counter movement, whatever feels good, whatever feels nourishing. You might take a few movements and settle into rebound wherever it looks like or wherever it is. Maybe your entire time here is gentle movement, counter movement. And if that's what's best for the body, just honor that. There's no right or wrong. But giving the time for the body to breathe, catch up. Let the tissues contract back. They are this long, stretchy, elastic fiber. Same way a slingshot would contract back, or a rubber band, or an elastic in some way. There's this consistent expansion and contraction, and we're just being mindful of that. If you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to. If you're ready to transition into recline figure 4 or sleeping swan on the right side, we'll begin to do so. So in case you need to see the image, recline figure 4, now any blocks or things would be under the left foot with the right ankle on top of the left thigh. More props, closer to the glute, less props, farther away from the glute, deciding on what's best for your back, your pelvis, your hips themselves, and anywhere in between. You can always start in one variation and then transition into another. And then your sleeping swan, the right knee is coming up towards the right wrist, shin directly underneath you or on more of a diagonal, with the left leg relaxing behind you. Props under the right hip, maybe propping left hip and right heel. And of course, whether you stay at the palms or come to your forearms, propping your chest or your forehead, whatever is most comfortable. Take your time, no rush. Part of the experience is readjusting or finding different props to use, looking for more stretch, looking for less stretch. It's all a part of the practice. Even the things that take us off the mat are part of the practice. For example, sometimes in yin, you can get thirsty. So getting water or something to drink is part of the practice. Sometimes, because of all of the stretching and not going off on a tangent, but I'll stay focused, sometimes the body will have to go to the bathroom. And that's so, I don't want to use the word normal, but it is. I used to teach at a studio where the bathroom was in the studio. Like it wasn't outside of the studio where we practice. It was literally in the studio that we were practicing. So many times during yin, you have to go pee, right? Or you have to go to the bathroom. And I would always louder the music during those times. And it was just, we were all used to it. It was just the way it was. And you couldn't get mad because everyone was truly honoring the body. And that's what we want to do within our actions on the mat, in stillness, and even when we have to get up and shift around. How is this approach of being genuine, honoring the body? So just tuning into that and continuing to find the softening, assisting the stretch in any way we can. And a few more breaths, exactly where we are. And then whenever you're ready, we'll all gently begin to release. Just taking your time. Sometimes it's a breath, and then that breath guides the movement. You might wiggle around into the arms and the legs. The way in which you release doesn't have to be this cookie cutter shape. Just taking your time and watching the way in which the body unravels you. Take as many counter movements as you'd like. And then settling into that space to rebound, whatever it might be. And letting yourself resonate with that previous pose. Continuing to stay present within this meditative space. And if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Whenever you're ready, we'll begin discussing our next stretch, which will be a twist. So if you're already laying down, feel free to stay. If you're not laying down, slowly transition. We will twist to the right first so that we can have our left leg on top, whether you choose to take pinwheel or supine twist, but I will talk about supine first. So as you hug the knees into the chest, twisting to the right, left leg on top, you might have a blanket, a pillow, or something underneath the right knee if that's supportive for the hip, or something in between the inner legs and inner thighs as you open out to twist. Right? The higher the knees and the chest, the better. Don't force it, but at least bring them in as high as you can. From there, if you'd rather take more of a pinwheel twist, you'll hug your left knee into the chest, kind of like the way we did when we released from dove. And then you just twist with your body over to the right. Now, with that left knee higher into the chest, you might still have a prop underneath the knee. Your right leg might stay bent, but sometimes, if it straightens, that's better for your stretch in this particular shape. So feel free to come into any variation of pinwheel, maybe coming back and forth within supine, whatever's best for you. Okay, and then from there, any pillow underneath the head or a blanket, maybe prop your shoulder. Sometimes I'll pick up my right shoulder and then just walk it like underneath me or away from me, depending on how you see that direction. But picking it up and tucking it underneath you could adjust the twist. Arms relaxing as high or as low as you'd like. And then from there, keeping your chin in any direction, just so as long as your neck is comfortable. And we'll close our eyes and we'll begin to settle here. And softening into the shape if you haven't already. Letting go of any clenching. The unnecessary tension that we release doesn't just disappear in thin air. The energy being used to clench the bone or clench the muscle is now reused in different functions of the body. Each layer we soften into is like a regeneration process. The body renewing itself breath by breath. And if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome. Or whenever you're ready, we'll start to release from the twist and take your time as your arms might lift up first. And then the left leg can release, then the right leg will follow. Taking your time as you transition to lay upon your back. Any counter movements for the knees, for the hips. And then, of course, settling into that rebound space. Taking that moment to observe and rebound while still letting the body soften. And coming back to focus if you felt a little distracted for any reason. If you'd like to stay and rebound a little longer, you're more than welcome to. When you're ready, we'll talk about our twist to the left side so that now the right leg is on top. And whether you're choosing supine first, you might hug the knees into the chest, swivel on your hips there, right knee or both knees come up into the chest so that the right leg is on top. Any props underneath or in between the legs that are helpful for supine. If you want to take more of the pinwheel, you'll hug your right knee into the chest as the left foot stays flat to the floor. And then letting the body twist, left knee might stay bent, or you'll straighten the left leg as the arms open up to the sides. You might be propping the right knee as well. It's always an option. Again, any props, pillows, blankets underneath the head or shoulders. Letting your arms rest in any variation. Have the option to tuck the shoulders or untuck, depending on what's best for your twist. Letting the chin relax in any angle as you feel your neck relax, as you feel your jaw soften. And as the body arrives here, as our mind acclimates, relearning again and again what the experience has to offer. So just being patient within that. In some ways, the eyes are relaxing here. In other ways, it's through that relaxation that the eyes also awaken. It is here within their ability that they can notice the backs of the eyelids, just simply stare forward at their internal screen. Letting the eyes even practice themselves how to observe in a genuine fashion. Our eyes are also taught to notice imperfections or notice mistakes, notice things that might need fixing. And here instead, the eyes are just learning to observe, to notice what is present. We'll be in our twist for a few more breaths. And then whenever you're ready, no rush, the body can begin to unravel. As you're awakening the chin comes neutral. as your arms start to lift off the floor. Legs unraveling one at a time, right leg lifting, left leg following. Once the feet both touch evenly, you might lift up the hips if a bridge pose, or really it's just extending the spine. That might feel good. Of course, your legs can hug into the chest. Your legs can lift up to the ceiling. Maybe they just straighten out towards the floor. But take as many counter movements that you as what am I saying? Take as many counter movements as you'd like, whether it's for the legs or the torso or the arms, maybe even for the fingers and toes. But then from these counter movements, we'll take our final pose of Shavasana. So our rebound here will transition us to Shavasana, where you might find certain props just to comfort you now. They're not going to support you in a stretch, but it might be comforting to have a blanket over the body, to have a pillow underneath the head, or sometimes it's comforting to have no props at all. Whether you stay here on your back, on your belly, side body, whatever it might be. Just letting this shape be nourishing in all the ways. And settling into stillness as we absorb our practice. Shifting into an even quieter space as we settle into this mindful time of Shavasana. Very gently, let's begin to deepen the breath. And as we deepen the breath, noticing the presence of the inhales and the release of the exhales. And gently awakening ourselves, noticing the way in which we've relaxed. And the body present here. You might move through the fingers and toes first when you're ready. And that can transition into a circle of the wrists and a circle to the ankles, just rolling into the joints here. And then maybe that transitions into the arms as the arms stretch up above the head, or maybe instead or arms can wrap around the chest as you hold on to the opposite shoulders. From there, the knees can bend in and the feet come flat to the floor. They might stay there, or you can hug the knees into the chest, and then the arms can wrap around the shins as we rock gently side to side, taking any movements here. It might feel good to stretch your forehead up to the knees, or really you're stretching your back to reach your forehead to the knees. And then anything else along the way until you roll to your right or to your left. Letting the bottom arm rest as a pillow for the head. And just taking a breath here on your side body, if that's okay. Noticing the breath of fresh air along your spinal column, the back of the neck, to the skull, to the crown of the head. And with this spaciousness, we'll press down into the floor and come back up to sit. Or really just closing practice however you'd like, taking any other shape. And as we close our eyes and find stillness, taking a moment of reflection. Noticing any expansion within the body or breath. Any clarity within the heart or mind. And how that is threaded to this genuine presence that we offer ourselves. Honoring our practice and intentions here, hands can stay relaxed within the lap, or you can gather them into prayer. Taking one cleansing breath, or joining me for the sound of Om. As we take a deep breath in. Om. And gently bowing the chin to the chest. Thank you for practicing with me this evening, being elevated through yoga. Namaste.